When I first started specializing in the psychology of men and marriage more than a decade ago, people would often ask how it happened that a woman like me, who knew so much about men and romance, wasn't married. Maybe they didn't realize that at that point I had been married twice and divorced twice. Sitting through hour after hour of marriage counseling with me as the counselor, I often envied the women whose husbands were enduring so much. Men who were actually fighting for their marriages, even when their wives were fighting so hard against them. And I thought of many women I've known. Some of them have been pretty mean, but they still had husbands, and I didn't. One might be tempted to believe that being a mean girl is the only way to get and keep a husband. How do they do that? Why do these men stay? The bottom line here is never take another woman's advice. Never, ever. Except mine, of course. Hi, I'm Dr. Debbie. As a clinical psychologist, I worked with men in counseling for more than 25 years, sometimes individually, but often with their wives' participation. And in the process, I learned a lot about a man's hopes, his fears, and his dreams and disappointments. Now I'm here to share that information with you. So let's dive in. Shortly after I met the cute boy, a female acquaintance offered her advice. Expert advice, because she proudly announced she had once worked as a receptionist in a counselor's office. It wasn't my office, fortunately. Therefore, she felt compelled to share her own love story as a good example of how to keep a man. As a young teenager, she'd become infatuated with a boy who was several years older. He didn't treat her well at all, but she hung around anyway, like a lovesick puppy. When all of his friends had deserted him because he was so self-centered, she was still there. And so he started being kind to her, spending all of his time with her. By then, there wasn't anybody else for him to hang out with anyway. Then, once she'd set the hook, she changed her approach drastically. After he declared his love and married her, she announced out loud, I believe, that she was going to make him pay for all the time he'd ignored her when she was following him around. She gleefully reported to me, I treat him like blank. Then when he feels really bad, I do something really nice for him, like cook his favorite meal or have sex with him. And that's how I keep him in line. He can flirt with other women. They don't intimidate me. I'm the one he's always going to come home to. When I met this couple, they'd actually been married for nearly 30 years. Did that mean she had it figured out? Did her husband realize what she was still doing? What was his point of view? Her husband had been dealing with some pretty serious digestive problems. He ended up having surgery. And a few months after that, I was standing next to him at a presentation about Victorian costuming when someone asked why they never had any workshops for men's costumes. Her husband turned to me and mumbled sarcastically, "Yeah, how to make armor." And I wonder if she cares that in that same conversation, he referred to wives as bloodsuckers. As a psychologist, I'm convinced there's a connection with his poor health and being treated badly. That would make anyone's stomach hurt. On the other hand, some men have no better advice than women. I was carpooling with a group of friends, and I sat next to a middle-aged single man. He was aware of my interest in the psychology of men, and he took the opportunity to tell me an insider secret about men. Guys don't like to date a woman they see as too perfect. It makes them nervous that they'll never be able to deserve her, so they'll dump her. So it seemed that I had been going about romance all wrong. First, I should pick a bad boy, then become a mean girl who flaunts her flaws as though they are virtues and treats men as slaves. I just couldn't see myself doing that. And I have absolutely no desire to even try to pull that off. Not ever. As a Christian, my goal is always to become more like Christ, whether any man loved me or not. I want to be governed by love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self control. And I most certainly didn't want to be the kind of woman that makes a man feel like he needs to wear armor whenever he's around her. What I dreamed about, needed, and wanted in my own life was a man who had the same goal that I have, to be more like Christ. What kind of partner do you want? Let's talk again soon.